The 1970s and 80s were turbulent times in South Africa's history. It was in the townships where the fight against the apartheid oppressive regime was its most brutal and violent. Fed up with the injustice of the system, fearless figures used their prominence to speak out and demonstrate against apartheid.
In the absence of other venues where people could meet, the church became an important place for the convening not just of a congregation but of community. And the police tried to repress people, frequently shooting at them or shambocking people. It was a priest who stepped up. That only happened because you had at the helm of these churches people who wanted the church to play a very different role in the struggle for justice and peace.
Our God is the God of the Exodus.
For Archbishop Desmond Tutu, the church could not remain silent in the face of arrest, detentions and long suffering of black people.
When people try to fight against this system, they are detained without trial, they're banned. We either talk or we fight. And I am still saying, we want to help you, South African government, South African whites. We want to help you to talk.
His words, a challenge to the regime, also resonated and articulated the hopes of many South Africans and cemented his voice in the church and society.
Am I bringing religion into politics or politics into religion? Now, let's just forget about that for a moment and say, are the points that I make in of themselves invalid? Are they untrue?
It was in the years as General Secretary of the South African Council of Churches that Archbishop Desmond Tutu's voice would become prominent and tough against the government.
The worst they can do is to destroy the SACC or remove Tutu. But what if they do? Who said death is the worst thing that can happen to a Christian?
In 1989, a young visionary priest would take on the responsibility and continue the work of the SACC. This would bring Reverend Frank Chikane further into the front lines against the apartheid regime. That same year, whilst traveling to Namibia and later to the United States, his clothes were sprayed with chemicals meant to induce a heart attack. Surviving these two poisoning attempts on his life left him with an even greater resolve to take a stand against the system.
Some of us consciously made a decision, we're going to stop the system, and we knew it will cost our lives.
As one of the leaders of the United Democratic Front, Reverend Chikane had long been a thorn on the side of the government.
The launching of the National United Democratic Front, bolstering the tide of the struggle, speeding up that day when the people shall say, we are free, justice is here.
For me, my commitment to justice came from my faith first. It's what my parents made me to be, particularly my mother in particular, who made sure that this faith is drilled in you, and that faith, it's about justice, it's about righteousness, it's about love.
Reverend Chikane, along with leaders such as Father Smangaliso Mkhatshwa, were some of the contributing theologians to the world-famous Kairos document. Written in 1985, it critiqued the role of the church in challenging the apartheid state. Father Mkhatshwa, as the General Secretary of the Southern African Catholic Bishops' Conference and activist in Soshanguve Township, endured much suffering at the hands of the state. Banned, arrested several times, and tortured whilst in detention.
So it was a feeling of helplessness in the sense that here and now, these guys, finally, they've caught up with me, and I can't even escape right now. But at the same time, what kept one going was the feeling that I was there for having done the right thing.
The country ushered in democracy in 1994, and the job of creating a new society began in earnest. A rainbow nation, a term coined by Archbishop Desmond Tutu.
We will be free! All of us! Black and white together!
Before this new nation could forge into the future, it had to deal with its ugly past. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission laid bare the wounds of victims of apartheid. Democratic South Africa was faced with a different set of social ills: HIV/AIDS denialism, inequality, and corruption.
We are up to here with their corruption.
Reverend Chikane spoke out against the leaders of the African National Congress, labeling state capture as treason.
I decided, no, not whilst I am alive. Even if it's done by my comrades. That's precisely the reason I must take a stand.
Speaking truth to power has made the much-loved Archbishop unpopular in certain political circles.
He's old now, but he's going through pain because of what he sees happening in society. He says, you know, we sacrificed our lives, we took a stand, we did all this just for people to end up doing what they are doing.
That there is no guarantee that those who were yesterday's oppressed will not become tomorrow's oppressors.
Struggle values: honesty, integrity, courage to do the right thing, real spirit of solidarity and comradeship. They are no longer prioritized. What they've done is a betrayal. And it's a sort of deep source of disappointment, I think, to lots of people. We've got to find a way to go back to the total transformation of society in its various forms.